I don't have a single memory of the island of Malta, where I was born. And I've something close to envy for friends whose birthplaces are familiar to them, home territory that they can revisit and perhaps catch glimpses of their younger selves. I have one dear friend whose hometown was here in southern Saskatchewan. In her own way, she has traveled at least as far as I have. She is one of Canada's preeminent poets and chair of a university department. Lorna Crozier was born and raised in Swift Current, and so too was Linda Haverstock, until recently the Lieutenant Governor of Saskatchewan. They were childhood friends and are friends to this day. Two remarkable women who have not lost touch with their roots or with each other. And perhaps, as the poet George Herbert wrote, the best mirror of any person is an old friend.
When was the last time you were on this road?
I don't even recall.
I think I could drive this road with my eyes closed.
Yeah, well, that was me too for so many years.
Yeah,
when you were in university.
When at university, coming home for every long weekend, coming home when I taught in northern Saskatchewan, and then whenever I come back for the summer, I always rent my car in Saskatoon and
I
drive
never
from
passed
there.
the tree without honking.
I know. I thought of that today when I drove in. I wanted to use it on a book cover sometime. I don't know if it'll ever fit, you know.
Bringing these two friends together on the street of their childhoods was to share in the alchemy of memory. I stood back and watched and eavesdropped as two young girls recreated themselves and stood time on its head.
Oh, isn't it beautiful?
It is beautiful.
And look at the light right now. A light like we can find nowhere else in the whole universe.
Exactly.
When I was teaching high school here, at one of the graduations, the students used this tree as their place cards.
Really?
So they cut little shapes out of cardboard.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So it was always this big to you, you know?
Yeah, it was.
Well, it was, what I loved was this sense of permanency. And I always said that to me, in my little part of this part of my world, my corner of the world, as long as this tree stood, I felt that things would be okay. Is that a bit odd?
Because they haven't been. But yeah, but it's a nice.
Well,
it's a nice.
the world isn't great.
No, and we've both gone through
yeah.
through sadnesses, but the tree remains here. When Linda and I were kids, we used to walk home from school, from Central School every night. It seemed like 3 miles, but it was probably 5 blocks. But it was there was a big hill. And we'd always walk. I can remember walking in the snow and walking under the streetlights when the snow was falling. And on Linda's impetus, we'd break into Christmas carols. And we knew the words of everything. And Linda, even when she was a little kid, had this most wonderful voice. I mean, I thought that it was my voice that I was hearing in my ears. So I grew up quite conceited, quite vain about my wonderful singing voice. And of course, I can't, you know, hold a tune I carry a tune in a sieve. I can't do it.
She would always say that I helped her sound good because I could carry a tune and.
She told me that.
But we thought we were quite terrific, actually.
Linda has just this gargantuan, warm tone coming out of her. And in fact, when she was an intern at the Clark Institute in Toronto getting her clinical psychology degree, she was part of the Toronto Opera Chorus. Her mom and dad had a phonograph player, you know, a 45 player, and my parents didn't. And so we'd go over to Linda's house and we'd put on Teresa Brewer. And I remember her mom and dad had this big hassock, and we'd jump together on this hassock and dance. In fact, we were going to enter a jive contest, and we practiced and practiced, and Linda, who was much taller than me, used to pull me through her legs and flip me around and everything.
Lorna, on the other hand, was always petite. She was tiny for her age, very, very bright, but because of her size, it seemed that she was even more precocious than one might assume if you knew her age. So, you know, there we were, this Smut and Jeff kind of a combination.
And then just as we were about to enter the competition, her mom took us aside. And it was kind of like when your parents take you aside and tell you there's no Santa Claus. Her mom said, Linda and Lorna, I have to tell you that you can't enter this competition because you have to be a boy and a girl. You can't be two girls together dancing. And we were way too young anyway, but it was a great blow.
Great street on which to grow up. We could and then have a list of all the people who grew up.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
What I will never forget was before there was a fence here, was Tiny waiting. Well, we went into the co-op and I'd say, stay Tiny, and she'd sit there and I could look out of the window of the co-op and see this beautiful little red dog.
And it was such a busy street because that wasn't a one-way street.
No, it was one of the main arteries through town, and she'd just be almost trembling with anticipation, wanting to go across the street to see us, but staying there. She was a wonderful little dog.
Lorna, you've rewritten history. A dreadful little animal. I wanted to love her so much because she was so cute, but she was vicious.
She even bit me.
Lorna's mom and dad had a house 3 houses north of where we lived. And Lorna and I never knew, at least to my knowledge, for years we didn't know that they were just simply renting that house. And what made it more intriguing is there were boarders upstairs. That was very cool. And I mean, this big house, tall house, had all of the intrigue for children that one could imagine.
We had the greatest group of kids in the neighborhood.
We really did.
And we all lived in the alleys.
Well, that's interesting, because I'm thinking of you two as the indivisible pair, but you were part of a gang.
Yeah, we were part of a gang.
Yes, we had a very interesting group, and especially when we would put together our heads for ill purposes.
Well, one of the things I remember that we used to do, and it was right over there on the Greenway lawn,
Yes.
was we would have this performance. We'd all have to get up one by one and sing or dance. And for some Jimmy Greenway was the king. And he was always a little guy, a real little energetic guy.
Yes.
Who got into trouble all the time. And he would decide whether to press a button, and there'd be a big trap door that would open and we'd go down to the alligator pit.
Yes.
So it was sort of an early Gong Show, or early Canadian Idol. One of the games we used to play was I Wish I May, I Wish I Might, I Wish I'd See a Ghost Tonight. Wandering around the neighborhood singing that, and one would be the ghost and leap out. It was great.
What was really amazing, which I don't think happens at all today, is how inclusive a lot of the older kids were for certain things.
Yeah.
Remember, like if we were playing
Kick the can, especially.
Then the kids in high school would actually play with us.
Mm-hmm.
And that meant that we could be out after dusk.
Yeah.
It was, we would go in at the last possible
I think we
moment
could have
when
been
it was
out after
dark.
dusk anyway,
Yeah.
don't you, at that
Oh,
time?
oh,
Our mothers
yes.
just wanted to get rid of us.
Yeah.
Don't come. And then you'd hear all up and down the block, you would hear the mothers in the doorways, right,
Yeah.
calling the children in.
Yeah.
That's a lovely, warm memory.
It
Felt
is.
like you were wanted and should go home now. Linda, Lorna. And here we have, I'll go a little further, we have the swimming pool where Linda and I learned to swim and hung
we're
out.
lifeguards.
And we're lifeguards. We were great
And that's
swimmers.
where we went
right
skating
behind
in the
that
winter,
fence.
And
yeah.
right behind that fence. Yeah.
It's the swimming pool.
That was great. I think it's really too bad they removed that.
I do too. And as we got older and became lifeguards, it was a place of wonderful flirtation.
Wasn't it?
It's a great way to meet boys.
Yeah.
I climbed the fence, yeah, and did that. Did you do that when you were a lifeguard?
No, I never did any bad things.
Lorna and I have had very divergent paths that we've taken.
Indeed.
I mean, I did not have my life unfold as she did as a younger person. I, on the other hand, took a very different kind of a path.
We were close until about grade 7. And then Linda reached puberty way, way, way ahead of me. She developed, you know, she had a woman's body and a woman's interests. And I was just a little kid, a little 12-year-old still, kicking around with scabby knees. And so we had a parting of ways for a while. She became pregnant when she was 15.
I grew up very, very quickly. And it was like the Ozarks. I married when I was 15 years old. I left school, had my daughter for my 16th birthday present. And so here was my girlfriend who I could watch finish high school, excel at that, receive scholarships and go to university and excel at that. And I was a 15-year-old high school dropout.
She was living in the same apartment building my grandparents came to every winter. Kind of a seedy little brick building in downtown Swift Current.
Lorna would come over. I lived in a very depressing place. We lived in a very depressing place. And it was it was a seniors block, just a one-rise, one-story block.
And I would just have come from a basketball game where I was a cheerleader. And Linda would be standing in front of the TV with a soap opera on, ironing diapers, and had this little baby by her side.
Lorna wasn't part of my life, that kind of life, very much, but she would come by.
And it really seemed that her life had come to a halt. And I can remember her saying to me, "It's not worth it, Lorna. Don't do what I did."
When I wanted to go back to high school, my husband really did not want that to happen. And I don't understand why. I've had no contact with him for 39 years or something. And he said, "If you go back to finish high school, I'll leave you." And I thought, well, he's never told the truth about anything else. And he did.
Here's our school. Now that was a long walk for 2 little kids. Up a big hill.
Yeah, and we didn't get driven ever.
Ever. No, didn't matter what the weather was like.
So going back to school was a ticket to several things. The first was having any sense of self-worth. The second was beginning to build on some kind of credibility.
Well, isn't it just too bad that the corner store isn't here anymore?
Yeah,
We
that
could
was
go
the
load
best
up
part
on
of
junk food.
school. This is the entrance we were never able to walk into.
Yeah.
Remember, it was reserved
Never
for the
allowed.
teachers.
I needed the sense of independence that would come with getting an education.
We've got all new windows.
It really was our only really old building in
Yeah.
Swift Current that we were involved with.
And the courthouse.
And the courthouse,
Which-
but we never went in
No,
there.
which was a very good thing.
Yeah, built in 1914.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we walk up and peek in the
Let's
window?
do
No
it.
one can tell us we can't walk up this
That's right.
staircase now.
That's right.
Just let them try.
It used to be so fun to sit on the steps and
Remember these beautiful, they would be fir probably, or maybe oak. And the smell of wax the first day of school when we walked through the doors. We must have gone to our first day of grade 1 together.
we did.
Do you remember it? Did our mums walk us to school
Yes.
at least then?
They did. They
walked
did take us to school, and I remember when you got your shot and fainted. No, I do. Your whatever it was that.
Yeah, the inoculation.
Yeah.
Probably would have been smallpox.
I don't know what it was.
No, and from
But
then on,
you could
every
smell it.
needle I've fainted for years
Really?
until finally I had to say, I still say to doctors if I'm getting a needle, I should lie down because I tend to faint. But it started in grade 1, and I remember that when you faint, there's a circle.
Yes.
You ever fainted?
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember that spiral? You go down. It's like you're sinking into some kind of well, and there's an odd smell. You get too.
It was a very strange way of lining everybody up in single file.
It was creepy.
Yeah.
No wonder we got scared by the time we got to the front of the line.
I know.
Every kid would come back crying.
Yeah.
And you think, oh no, what are they going to do to us? But what did you do if you grew up in Swift Current, if you were a girl? You know, you became a nurse, a secretary, or a teacher. And I can't remember what Linda wanted to be or do at that time, but in grade 8, I was voted the girl most likely to become a nurse, which I find now a terrible insult. And I can't imagine, you know, how I even thought I could do it, because I used to faint every time I got a needle. And you know, there's always been a hopscotch there.
Yep.
Hasn't there?
Yeah.
Hey?
And all these people that would say...
Remember what we used to do? We had our special stone to throw.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we had to bend and pick it up, right?
Right.
I can't remember
No,
where.
you had to throw it in here first. No, you had to throw it in that one.
Did we have to do
hop
it?
in
Okay.
here, throw it in there.
And then we had to
You
hop.
hop in here, and then no.
No, you got it in the way back, didn't you?
Oh, did you?
And didn't you have to do it in one leg?
Sure.
I don't remember. But that was a move on
As time went on, it was very interesting. When she married, I was there standing beside her. This is quite a lovely statement. Every marriage I've ever had, she has stood up with me. And I don't know what it is other than we both talk about being the keepers of our memories. And we have memories that we share that only we can understand.
Goodbye, old neighborhood.
Yeah. Goodbye, old
You did us well. Home of the future Lieutenant Governor. They should put a plaque on that house.
I felt that the time had come to have artists in Saskatchewan, first of all, feel valued, to work in a way that would be collaborative enough that they would not see themselves as distinct entities, but perhaps could come together in a more cohesive fashion, and that the people of the province and Canada would, without question, be able to see this in action. So my dream, which took 3 years to bring to fruition, of the gala, the Lieutenant Governor's Centennial Gala, most people that I approached about needing to do something truly, truly, truly grand for the Centennial were apprehensive. And I approached CBC and made the case. And I said, listen, I want a 2 to 2.5 hour commercial-free live television production from sea to sea to sea. And I will provide you with a now 9,000 square foot stage and all of the performers that you can imagine, and the Queen will be there. Will you put it on? My case had to be made in this way, stating I can turn on my television and watch the Halifax Comedy Festival. You tell me the last thing and the only thing, anything that you have ever put on national television on the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation that has ever been about the arts from Saskatchewan. That isn't curling, that isn't whatever, just show me. And they agreed to do it.
But right now, as we mentioned, Sheila, special guest has arrived, Queen and Prince Philip.
And there we see the special flag that flies. It's a special Canadian flag. It flies whenever the Queen is in attendance in Canada, and there she is. Doesn't she just look absolutely marvelous, being greeted by our Lieutenant Governor and host this evening, Linda Haverstock, and behind them you can see her husband, Harley Olsen, with Prince Philip.
My life has been a total surprise. Yeah. And isn't it good? And you know, it is fascinating to me to talk about past, because I'm very much a, when it's finished, it's finished. Mm-hmm. And these days, of course, people all say, oh, you must miss your job, because they know how much I loved being Lieutenant Governor. I adored everything I did, as Lieutenant Governor, all of these opportunities to honor the honorable, and to celebrate with communities and organizations and people, things that are so worthy of celebration. But you know, I haven't missed one day. It's as if it was complete for me. And that's why I love this thread of continuity that runs through my life called Lorna Crozier.
So please welcome Governor General award-winning poet, Lorna Crozier.
On the first day, God said, "Let there be light."
My mom was always very surprised at what I'd done with my life, because she always used to say, I hated English in school. I was good at math, and I was the opposite. I hated math at school and was good in literature and grammar, right? And so my mother never understood why I became a writer. Maybe why I became an avid reader, first of all, but why I became a writer. She was proud of what I did. She was proud of the books. She sometimes wished I hadn't said what I say in my work. And I ask her forgiveness for that she let me get away with it and didn't stop loving me. But I came from the kind of background where there was no art at all, no paintings. Music was Wilf Carter, and I appreciate that now. I didn't then. Songs like Rock Me to Sleep in My Saddle, was that Gene Autry or Roy Rogers? I can't remember. And my dad used to play the fiddle, but he didn't by the time I was born. He sold it for a big radio and record player combination. So I never got to see that musical side of him. So for me to go into the arts and even to go to university was a really big deal.
But as we've grown older, that's the one constant, is that we have never, ever not contacted each other on our birthdays, even if we're on the other side of the world. So it's reassuring in a way.
I had no idea she'd reach the heights that she did. It's quite an amazing story and achievement.
With Lorna, I can say there's never been a breath I've taken in awareness when I have not known her. And that's remarkable, to have had someone in your life who's not a member of your family, who one can say, I have known for my entire life.
Next to my mother, I'm going to cry here, no one has been prouder of me than Linda.
I tried to read a poem yesterday when my friend Linda Haverstock, the former Lieutenant Governor, was in the audience. And I couldn't get through it without weeping, which was very embarrassing. You don't want to laugh at your own work or weep at it. That's for the audience to do. What comes next? Here comes my father home from fishing. He never owned a crewel. In a tin bucket, he carries 3 Lake Pelshire perch for my mother to gut and scale. Here comes my mother with a scraping knife. She didn't know how to fillet then. At supper, the fish fried in butter, she fingers through my portion for the thin white slivers that will catch my breath. No one's ever loved me better. Here comes the silence, Sunday's cutlery, and the formal courtesy of passing salt and butter. The only question that gets asked, do you want some tea? My father's hand shaking as it guides the spoon from the sugar bowl to his cup, a sweet thinness trailing across the arborite. Here comes the cold unwanted. In the prairie dark, I'm walking home from school where my grade 3rd teacher has put me in the back and told me not to sing. I don't tell anyone. I have no music in me. Here comes the snow, me singing loudly as I can. Crystals bloom on my scarf where my voice is coming out. My brows and lashes feathered, my lungs twin machines for making frost from breath and cold. Here come the dead. They've had enough of mouthing words above the clouds, enough of never asking. Straight from the heart, where there's little left of them, they've been singing while we sleep. All the windows in our house gleam white as bone.
Well, there's our town.
There's our town. Our lovely city of Speedy Creek.
Yeah.